Okay, welcome back to Gary's Economics. This week, I want to do something a little bit different, which is to talk about a discussion which has been causing a lot of disagreements here in Gary's Economics offices, which is largely this kitchen and a WhatsApp group. Recently, we got contacted by the Labour Party, basically, which is the first time we've ever been contacted by the Labour Party. And they said, oh, you know, we've been seeing what we've been doing on the channel and we would like to send some MPs onto the channel to talk to you about presumably the economy. And my initial instinct when that happens was that we have to let them on. Basically, that was a kind of a moral, like an ethical response, because we criticise the government a lot. Labour have been in government for coming up to a year now. We've criticised them a lot. Before them, we criticised the Conservatives a lot. But I felt since we are criticising these guys a lot on the channel, we kind of have an obligation to let them come on and defend themselves. They are literally the party of government in this country. I think I might even have said on the channel, you know, if you want to come on, we'll have you on. So I felt like we kind of have to have them on, really, from a moral perspective. So I chucked it out there to the team. We have a very small team now. We have Jack here, the videographer, and we have Oscar, who's channel manager. And I said, yeah, these guys want to come on the channel. I think we have to have them on. And we had a little chat about it. And basically, Oscar thinks we shouldn't have them on. I think Jack probably thinks we shouldn't have them either. So I wanted to basically talk about what's going on in my head, what's going on in our discussions about whether we should have them on. And basically, I wanted to put it to you guys, the viewers, to basically let you guys have your say about whether you think we should have them on. And I wanted to engage you guys in the thought process. Yeah, and just encourage you to put in the comments what you think. So I'm going to kind of go through the pros and the cons as I see them. So firstly, the pros, I think it's kind of the right thing to do to have them on, because as I say, we've been criticising them and they're the party of government, and we kind of should give them a right to reply, to defend themselves. Other pros, look, I'll be clear about what I'm doing here. You know, this is obviously a YouTube channel, but those of you who've been watching for a long time, you will probably be aware that, you know, I'm not just doing this YouTube channel to make videos. I want to achieve political change here. You know, I want to achieve a fairer tax system, which taxes the very rich more and taxes ordinary working people less. I want to stop increasing inequality. I want to try to stop falling living standards. You know, and everything, the writing of the book, it's all about trying to achieve political change. And I'll be very clear, plan A for me, and I think I've said this on the channel before, is to try to influence the Labour Party running up into the next election. I think that they will fail on the economy. I think that living standards will continue to decline. I think that Labour and Keir Starmer will become increasingly unpopular because of that. And I think they will be forced to, if not replace Keir Starmer, at the very least, do a significant rebrand on economic policy. And I think they will be forced to consider a new direction, to consider at the very least a new style of messaging. But I think they will be forced to listen to new ideas. And I think that if we can keep growing the channel at the kind of pace we have been growing the channel, I think that we can be big enough and can be powerful enough that we maybe can influence that change in economic direction for the party, which will probably come in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, leading into the election. That might sound crazy, but the growth of the channel is so quick at the moment, and the growth in support is so quick, I actually think that is achievable. But that obviously means building some form of connection with Labour and some form of influence with Labour. I'll be clear about that. I'm not trying to sort of covertly become a member of the Labour Party. My priority, my plan is to make this channel so big that they basically have to talk to us, whether they like us or not. I call this the Rupert Murdoch plan. So Rupert Murdoch, for those who don't know who he is one of the richest men in the world. He's an Australian media businessman. He owns loads of newspapers, and really he kind of indirectly controls politics in a lot of countries, including the UK, because he has so much influence over the public through his newspapers and his TV channels that unless prime ministers get his support, they basically can't win elections. And I think I'm not wrong in saying, wasn't he godson to Tony Blair's kid? I think he double checked me on that. But, I think one of the reasons Tony Blair was so successful politically is because he got Rupert Murdoch's support, basically. And I think Rupert Murdoch is a great example of how you don't need to be an MP or even Prime Minister directly to completely control politics, basically. He was, yeah. Yeah, so I'm not wrong on this.
Tony Blair, godfather to Rupert Murdoch's daughter.
Okay, Tony Blair, godfather to Rupert Murdoch's daughter. Okay, so they were close, basically. I think Rupert Murdoch shows you that if you have a big enough media presence, you can basically boss the political parties around. And that's my plan A, basically. The growth on this channel is unbelievably quick at the moment. I don't know whether we'll be able to keep up that level of speed. But to be honest, we're going to try to get some big media hits, Diary of a CEO, Question Time, Rest is Politics. Maybe we can keep growing at this pace. And if we do, yeah, then Labour will have to listen to us. But either way, if I don't want to set up a political party myself, which, trust me, I don't, I think our best chance of influencing policy is via the Labour Party. So obviously having them on is a way to try to develop some sort of relationship, which I guess brings us onto the negatives, because one of the obvious negatives is I am very, very critical of Labour Party policy at the moment. I think it will fail economically. And if somebody comes on, I will say that. And, I'm not going to have them on and be a soft touch. Like I'm going to tell them that I think their policy will fail. And I'm going to try to, if they're unwilling to listen to that, then I'll probably have to go for them quite aggressively. And there is a risk that we perhaps sour the relationship with the Labour Party, which might be problematic down the line. I don't know. I want to be clear. I keep saying that. I don't have a background in politics. My background is in economics, and I'm not a professional lobbyer. I really don't know how this works. My plan for a long time has been to build popularity with the public, and it's only really now the channel is growing that I'm even starting to think about, okay, how are we going to be able to leverage this into political power down the line? But yeah, that's one of the risks. Number one is, we might potentially sour relations with the Labour Party, which might possibly influence our ability to influence them, affect our ability to influence them down the line, which could be a problem. To be honest, I think if we get this channel big enough, I don't think that will be a problem, because I think if we're big enough, they have to listen. But, maybe it is. Maybe you guys know more than me about the Labour Party. I'm not an expert. I'm not a member. The second thing is it risks people questioning the political neutrality of me and the channel. So I come into this as an economist. I consider what I'm doing kind of a single issue campaign. We need to stop wealth inequality from increasing. That's how we stop poverty from exploding. I honestly don't consider myself to be particularly politically factional. I've voted for a number of different political parties over the course of my life. But obviously, if we let the Labour Party on, there might be people that say, oh, Gary's let the Labour Party on, he's a Labour Party stooge, he's on the left. I think we have to accept we live in increasingly extremely factional times with regard to politics, where people who feel that they are on the right often hate people who are on the left. People who feel that they are on the left often hate people who are on the right. And I want to appeal to people in both camps or neither camp. I honestly believe that we're not politically factional, and I want to be able to remain believably politically non-factional, and that might be a risk if we have Labour on. I would be bringing Labour on because they are literally the party in government, and I criticise them a lot. And I would have had the Conservatives on when they're in government, and I'd be open to having the Conservatives on now if we had Labour on. But that's a risk. We might be seen as non-politically factional. We might be seen as, not politically neutral. Then after that, if we have Labour on, in order to, defend and justify that we are politically neutral, which I think that we are, we might need to have the Conservatives on, we might need to have Reform on, and some people might say we should even have the Liberal Democrats on, and we should even have the Greens on, we should have the SNP on, and then it starts to become a situation where we are giving up a significant amount of our time to basically other people, when primarily I want this channel to be an educational channel, an informative channel. I work hard to put out informative educational videos every week that help ordinary people understand what's happening, and we only do one video a week. It takes up a lot of my time, it takes up a lot of my energy, it takes up a lot of our resources. We don't really want to start giving up a huge amount of basically this space we've created to a bunch of politicians who we don't really trust or even really like necessarily. So that's the second question. Is it going to sort of start us on a slippery slope of having to give a lot of our time and space, which we've worked hard to create, to people that we don't really like, people that we don't support? And I don't mean that just Reform and Conservatives. I include Labour in that because there are a lot of people in Labour that I maybe am not a massive fan of. And then the next potential problem after this is quite simply that it might just be really boring. It's I think a very real risk. So I mentioned message discipline in my videos last week. One of the reasons why MPs are often quite boring when they go on TV is because they get told what to say by the party. That's the way that it works. Party tells them what to say. They don't have a huge amount of freedom, and there's a very real risk that we allow someone on the channel. He sits here with me at the kitchen table. He or she, obviously, could be a woman, and it's just really, really boring. And it's just talking, just speaking the talking points they've been told to say. They're not really thinking about the economy. They're not really listening, and it could just be really rubbish TV. Could just be really rubbish video. That is a risk, and I take pride in putting out good, interesting videos on the channel. If people have their opinions on whether they're good or interesting, I think we produce good content, and I've always believed that it's really important to produce good, interesting content, and that's a risk. We bring them on. That's just boring content, and then then we're forced to bring on Reform and Conservatives, and we just get a string of boring videos, and we become Gary's Economics, boring political broadcast, which is obviously not what we want to be. The next risk is just, I am obviously not a professional interviewer. I'm an economist. We've done interviews on the channel. We've only ever had 3 guests on the channel: Matt Zab Cousin, Stephanie Brobby, and Jimmy the Giant. All 3 people that I really like, I really respect their work. But even so, people sometimes criticize those videos and say, "Oh, Gary, you're not a good interviewer. You need to give the guest time to speak." And I think they're probably right. I'm not a professional interviewer. It's not my job. I would have to sort of sit and think quite long and hard about, what do I want to ask these people? How do I want to run it? How are we going to manage it if they're boring and they don't say anything? So it's just a lot of stuff for me to think about. If I go too soft on them, people might say, "Oh, Gary, you secretly support Labour." If I go too hard on them, people might say, "Oh, Gary, you hate Labour. You're on the right. We might sour our abilities to influence them down the line." So yeah, that's basically it really. We're throwing around a lot of ideas. I think if I was thinking purely explicitly about like what is best for the YouTube channel, probably I wouldn't have them on. I think we've got a cool channel here. I think we make great videos. I think we make fun, exciting, accessible, educational, informative videos. People like it. We're growing really quickly. We're popular. Everybody hates Labour. I think they're going to do quite a bad job. Their brand is weak. It's kind of toxic. It's like purely from a growing the channel perspective, it seems like an unnecessary risk. But at the same time, I think, and I'm kind of a lone voice in this in our team, I think it's the right thing to do. We attack them, we criticise them. I think the right thing to do. These guys are literally, they're the government of this country. Even if we don't have other parties on, I think we have a kind of a duty to let them come on and defend themselves. But no decision has been made. I'm crazy busy, and I haven't had a real chance to sit and think it through. So I thought we'd try something different, which is to just discuss here on camera in front of you guys what we're thinking, what I'm thinking, and ask you guys for your opinions, basically. So what do you think? Should we have them on? What are the risks? If we have them on, does that mean we have to have on the Conservatives and Reform, the Liberal Democrats? What do you think? Or is it a waste of our time and we should just keep making the videos? Of course, I can go back to these guys and say, "Hey, look, I want to talk to you." And I can sort of ask for, "Look, if you want to come on the channel, I need you to come and talk to me about, are you going to give me what I want? Are you going to be open to things like wealth taxes, like a fairer tax system, like raising tax on wealth and lowering tax on work?" So, that is another option. We can turn around and say, "Yeah, we'll have you on the channel if you give us what we want," which is, a little bit more access to your policymakers, telling us how you make your policy. Lots of options here. I have no background in political lobbying. I'm not really comfortable in this space. I'm an economist at the end of the day. So be nice. No decisions have been made, but let us know what you think. Put it in the comments. We'll be watching, we'll be reading, and that's all. I should say, the reason that we're getting these kind of approaches from Labour is because the channel is growing unbelievably quickly, and that is thanks to you, the viewers. So I'd like to thank everyone who watches the channel, shares the channel, everybody who has bought the book, shared the book. The book, at the time I'm speaking, the book's been 5 weeks at #1. You know, this is one of the reasons why we get these approaches. Yeah, this is something that shows we are getting a bit of political power, and if we keep growing, we could get more. But we haven't yet decided what the best way is to play it, to approach it. So let us know your opinions, put them in the comments. Thanks for your support, and keep watching. Thank you.